ground radar told him, climb to a heading of 32,000 feet over east Ipswich. He said, do you want me to go full gate? And I said, go full gate.
Full gate is Air Force lingo for full power. At the time, the F-86D could reach speeds of over 1,100 kilometers per hour, just under the speed of sound. It's the Cold War, and Torres is being sent to intercept a potential Soviet spy plane, or worse, a bomber.
They had incursions from the Soviet Union into Allied airspace, and that was the whole design of the F-86D as an all-weather fighter to prevent these kind of incursions.
Visibility is almost zero. Milton Torres is forced to fly his plane using only his flight instruments.
Zulu 1, turn right, heading 010.
As ground control guides him towards the target, he asks to decrease his speed, but his request is denied.
Negative, maintain afterburner to intercept.
So now he realizes whatever this thing is, they want him to close in on it fast.
Control, it's impossible to see.
And they asked him to visually see it, and of course, he's totally in the suit. You know, this is England. He said England was constantly fogged down, and this particular time it was just thick as could be.
Torres is flying blind, still waiting for the object to appear on his radar, when ground control gives an order he has spent years training for.
Zulu 1, engage target. I repeat, engage.
They told him to fire all of his rockets. All 24 rockets. They wanted him unloading all of them. He was thinking, damn, I could be starting World War III.
This is one of the most controversial UFO encounters on record. No government agency to date has released any information on this 1957 event. And no documents have ever been declassified that back up Torres' account.
What we don't have is any of the original official documents.
Nick Pope investigated classified UFO sightings for the UK's Ministry of Defence from 1991 to 1994. Pope interviewed Milton Torres many times and thinks he knows why the incident is a benchmark UFO encounter.
So for 50 years, Milton Torres had dutifully kept his silence. Once paperwork relating to this was in the public domain, he felt free to discuss it.
In 1988, Milton Torres breaks his silence and writes this affidavit. It details the unexplained events of that night in 1957.
He had this scientific mind that had to be analytical. Everything had to have a proof, and that's what threw him off, because he couldn't explain this thing. He didn't know what it was.
Torres is determined to find answers. He has his lawyers send his sworn testimony to the UK's Ministry of Defence.
He said, "We have no desire to break the Official Secrets Act. We'd like to know more about this incident if possible."
Torres pressures the MOD in a series of letters from 1988 to 89 to declassify the incident so ex-RAF personnel can speak out about the encounter. The Ministry of Defense responds by claiming neither they nor the U.S. Air Force have any official record of the incident. 20 years later, in 2008, Torres' testimony is declassified.
Once the Ministry of Defence itself had released into the public domain Milton Torres' statement, Torres realized that he was free to discuss this.
But what happened to Milton Torres that day in 1957 has never been explained.
When he received the shoot-down order, he was absolutely stunned.
He thought it was a real event. But he told me he was scared.
Torres' F-86 Saberjet is fully armed with 24 air-to-air rockets. But when the target finally appears on Torres' radar, he is astounded.
His quote was, "It was burning a hole in the radar."
In his sworn testimony, Torres writes, "I had a lock-on that had the proportions of a flying aircraft carrier." He is just about to fire when the impossible happens.
He pulls the trigger and fires, and this thing bugs out.
The object disappears off Torres' radar at an incredible rate of speed.
And it's important to say that it's not just the speed here that's impossible for 1957. It's the acceleration too.
Control, I've lost the target.
Zulu 1, copy. We've lost target as well. Return to base.
In his affidavit, Torres states he returned safely to RAF Manston, where he is advised the blimp has gone off the radar scope in 2 sweeps.
So here we have 2 radars confirming that this thing went over Mach 10.
Mach 10 is over 12,000 kilometers per hour.
They couldn't understand what the hell this thing was.
A second pilot flying with Torres that night states in an affidavit, "I was vectored on several of the unknowns. But the object either accelerated or descended, and the controller lost him." The other pilot writes specifically about Torres. "I do recall he was rather excited and talked about getting a lock on one of the unknowns. I have no reason to believe it was not as recounted in his narrative." According to Torres, the next day he attends a debriefing.
Have a seat, Lieutenant.
But instead of an Air Force investigator, he meets a mysterious man in civilian clothing.
Usually a debriefing would be a military-to-military affair by his chain of command. This is highly unusual. His commanding officer isn't anywhere to be seen. He's by himself.
According to my dad, he was from the NSA, and he was based in London. And he had come just on this event to brief Dad.
The National Security Agency, or NSA, monitors and analyzes intelligence from around the world for the U.S. government.
Did you at any point get a visual of this thing?
According to my dad, he was extremely intimidating. And, you know, my dad said that the guy was all business.
Torres is now face-to-face with an intelligence agency few know anything about.
This is the last time you ever discussed this.
Yes, sir. In his affidavit, he writes, "He threatened me with a national security breach." From 1957 to 2008, Torres kept quiet about his ordeal.
Staying silent for 50 years is a testament to the character of the man, to his truthfulness, his honesty, and the seriousness with which he took his security oath.
When he released this information, my dad wept because he never told his father. He kept the secret from us as kids, and he never told my grandfather. And his father and him were very close.
But did Torres really pursue a UFO? Or was he sent to shoot down something that was never there?